Okay, I think we are streaming. This is going to be really awkward if not. And I'm using the setup I used last week, which is a Sony AS7 II hooked up to an AverMedia capture card. This should focus. Is it focusing? Yeah, it looks like it is. And I need to be slightly further to the left to be in the shot. Okay, there we go. Again, sorry about the wait, and I'm totally going to blame my software incompetence here. Actually, part of that wasn't my fault, but I did have to kind of rebuild the Walter White, I guess is what we're going to call it, or Heisenberg back there. I had to swap out the stock card that was in there. It was a 1070 Ti from Galax. I swapped that with a 2080 from Asus. Going to run some more long-term tests with that card. Also want to just kind of test run it in some games and see if it's, you know, worth the upgrade. I mean, obviously it's going to be a better card than the 1070 Ti, but it's really difficult for me to justify buying the card in the first place, so I feel kind of dirty using it, even though it is such a good card. It's just so overpriced right now. So yeah, this is a birthday stream, and I have nothing planned. It was kind of a, pretty normal day for the most part. My parents brought some goodies back home, and I'm not 16 anymore, but it was nice to kind of celebrate a little bit with them. They're still in the process of having the insurance and all that stuff handle the house. Their house is pretty much gone, so a lot of that's going to take place tomorrow. It took a while for the insurance to even come out and look at the place. They're going to do that tomorrow, and it's been 2 weeks since the hurricane hit, so there's been a bit of a delay, I guess you could say, and that's largely due to the volume of people, having to get insurance companies to come in there and adjust and all that stuff, because the whole city basically was wiped out. So no cake. We actually had, what was it? We had cheesecake, so I guess that counts. Cheesecake's cake, right? And then we had, my mom bought some really good cupcakes she brought over, so it's really, really nice. They've actually been staying with me for the most part. My dad's been back at the house cleaning up and setting things up, but the rest of my family's been here in this small apartment with myself. And I have some good news. It's kind of an awesome birthday present. We actually found out last week, I want to say, or a week before that. Lisa, my wife Lisa, is going to be coming here for approximately 5 months, and hopefully by the time that her visa expires, which it's a 6-month travel visa, tourist visa, but she used it, she applied for it on the merits that she was going to come and see her husband, and that would be, a long enough time for them to process her I-130 application, which is basically her marriage visa, spousal visa, and that will allow her to stay here permanently. She'll get a green card, and then you stay married for like 2 years or something like that, and then you're a full-time citizen. So yeah, that's exciting, because she'll get to be here at least for 5 months, which is the longest we've ever been together. And then hopefully by the end of the 5 months, she'll get to stay here permanently because she'll have a green card. Worst case, she goes back for a couple months, whatever, and then she comes back permanently. But at least we get to be together for a lot longer this time, which is great news. She is sleeping right now. It's like 3 in the morning over there, but I'm really excited. So she'll get to come here actually this Friday. Friday, it'll be her Saturday. She'll be here, so I'm really excited about that. It'll be a great birthday present. So I really had no plan for this live stream, other than the fact that it's a Sunday night. We usually do live streams on Sunday nights, so if you're watching right now, the 140 or so who are, I appreciate all of you, especially if you have school the next morning. Again, I emphasize school. I want you guys to prioritize school above all else. If that is your full-time job, if you will, school is the most important thing in your life right now. And people are going to tell you school doesn't matter, you can be successful without school. Fact of the matter is, if you have a degree, if you have a high school diploma, it's going to help you. It's going to give you that kick through the door, and it's going to put you on the top of the stack versus the middle of the stack. Because honestly, a lot of people will just kind of, does he have a bachelor's degree? Does he have a high school diploma? And they'll start asking people just because you don't meet certain criteria. That's straight up how they just, they separate the cream of the crop from the rest of the bunch. Because obviously, if you're going to hire somebody, you want to hire the best you can. And it doesn't mean that if you have a degree, you're the best out there. But it's just one of the ways in which they do things. And when I say they, I'm talking about a majority of companies, and you just got to play the game. That's really all I can say there, is you just got to play the game and try your best. And that's why I saw a couple of people saying, hey, I have school tomorrow, I'm up really late, but I want to watch a live stream. The stream's going to be archived. I know you want to ask questions and stuff, but I encourage you to prioritize school first. That is something that I cannot reiterate enough. So we're gonna move on. I see a bunch of questions. I guess we're just gonna do a Q&A. You guys always ask really good questions, and I love that. I love seeing the same kinds of people in the live streams every week. That actually really is encouraging. So I appreciate you guys dropping by again on this Sunday night. Sunday night here. It might be Monday for you in your part of the world. So let's see here. Gatoman, Tailman. I prioritize my retirement. That's totally my dad right now. He's in that that zone, right? He's just trucking through work. He's like amped about retirement, and I guess he's at that age, like mid 50s or so, where you start looking forward to that because he's been with his company for a long time. So he's pretty excited about that too. I totally can't relate, but hopefully I live long enough to be able to relate someday. Let's see, Atupin. Atupin is a channel member. I appreciate your 3 months of membership or service, whatever you want to call it. Thanks, Atupin. Do you think NVIDIA will release a high-end card, say a GTX 1080 Ti without ray tracing? That's a good question. I don't think that's the route they're going to go. I think they're going to release the lower-end cards without ray tracing. That's my belief. It wouldn't make sense, in my opinion, to throw RT cores and tensor cores into lower-end, like 2060s or 2050s, if you catch my drift. So I'm expecting them to X out the RT cores in the lower end cards. I don't think we're going to see a totally like standalone family of cards that compete with the RTX lineup that don't feature RT cores, right? So GTX 1080 Ti versus RTX 2080 Ti. I think that's going to create a lot of internal competition. And right now, NVIDIA pretty much dominates the high-end market. So I don't really see a point in including more because people are going to buy these anyway because they're the best. And then if you throw more cards into the mix, it's just more production time and cost and effort and marketing, all that jazz to get a new lineup out there. So that's my take. I don't have any information to confirm or deny that. Just my take. DP TKS, happy birthday, Greg. Have a great day ahead. I appreciate that, DP. Thanks for stopping by. I see a $20 super chat from Bazinga. Bazinga X, you're a really good person, Bazinga. You are a super chat fanatic. I really appreciate it. He says, you say we can ask anything, so how far can you walk into the woods? I feel like I'm missing something here. And y'all are all laughing at me behind my back. Is that a saying? Is there something implied there? This is the problem with being a one-man live streamer, because I can't defer to the person next to me and ask that person what that saying is. Or maybe you're just straight up, maybe it's just a legit question. You're actually talking about real woods. I have no idea. I don't know how to answer the question, but I hope you got your $20 worth, Bazinga, because I am pretty embarrassed right now. Okay, moving on. I see Shivam. Oh gosh, I just skipped through a bunch of stuff. Scrolling up here, let's see. Shivam, I want to be able to play Destiny 2 in 1440p, so I'll probably buy a 1070. As for CPU, i5 or Ryzen, I would be taking this PC to college, so could Ryzen benefit in multitasking CAD? Yeah, I haven't tested a lot of workloads specifically in CAD to decide whether or not it's an Intel dependent or kind of a freestanding software. I know CAD's widely used. We used it a lot in our engineering program as well. But I think that if we're just going to kind of throw a blanket statement out there for a program like CAD, I would definitely want to have as many threads as possible at my disposal, which is why I would recommend in this case a Ryzen 5 CPU. And you're only going to see maybe a 10% or so frame rate delta between an i5 and an R5, so I think you're getting the best of both worlds with Ryzen 5 at this point. I would only go for an i5 CPU if you can get one really cheap, or if all you're really doing is gaming, and that's all you're going to be concerned about for the next 3 or 4 years, then I think the i5 is a better bet because you will get that higher frame rate and you'll experience that for a lot longer. So just my take on that. Sebastian is a 3-month member. I appreciate you, Sebastian. Well, I will self-study, to be honest. I got my GED. Dude, that's awesome, man. And I like it. It's really difficult to, and this is why I did everything all up front, because everyone kept telling me it's super difficult to get out of school and then have to go back later on. Once you're in the groove of things and you have a steady job, or even if you don't have a steady job, but you just have life to deal with, and then you're asked to go back to school, right? You have to commit this whole chunk of 5 days a week, basically, unless you're taking night classes or what have you. It's a big investment, and to have to go back and do that on top of all the other things that are happening in life, that's a big accomplishment. Honestly, I would say that's probably harder than just being in high school, because that's your only job in high school, is to go to high school. I mean, you might have a side job, but it's ultimately irrelevant if you live with your parents, who basically pay for everything. So yeah, kudos to you, man. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and keep it up. Seriously. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Crew Crafters. That's Science Studio. Schools that offer culinary arts. Not not really. Like, the only thing that comes to mind is like the Art Institute, only because I see like the commercials for it. But I honestly have no idea if that's even like a culinary school. Probably not. I don't think it is. I just know it because it has art in the name. I do have a couple friends though who went to culinary school. I didn't expect them to. Like these people I went to high school with, like I knew how they were in high school, and I'm like, dude, like these guys, they couldn't tell pork from chicken, and now they're like chefs. And that's fine. Like, I would trust them now, but like back in high school, I definitely wouldn't have. So it's just kind of funny how that all works out. It's also very weird that I'm sitting off center from the camera because of the way I cropped the window. But anyway, okay. Scrolling down, Nick Salisbury. Hi, Greg. Maybe you can take a look at the Force Caster Kinetic Nanobot Wand, please. Up to you, thanks. What the heck is that? I've never heard of that before, but that sounds pretty cool. Let's see. Bazinga. Experience counts. Education only is call an educated idiot. Education. I'm confused, but I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, experience is definitely where I think you go to school. Like I'm only going to speak about engineers here because that's my degree, my bachelor's degree is in that. But I think you go to school to be an engineer only to be able to understand and explain on paper why things work the way they do. Versus in the field, with the experience that you have, the experience is something that you just understand fundamentally because you've been doing it over and over and over. And I'm just, I don't know. At this point, it sucks that I don't have as much experience as I would like to have in the field. I think that I should have probably taken an internship or two. But what my internship really was this channel was what I was running full time while I was in college. And I think by the time I was a senior in college, I was doing this full time, and I could have totally made a living full time on YouTube. And that's what I ultimately did. I had a summer job. I worked at a grocery store. I was a seafood associate, I guess. I worked in the seafood department next to the butchers, and good people over there. And I actually never went back my summer. I just told them over winter break, I was like, hey guys, like, YouTube's doing well enough. I want to devote all my time to that, especially over the summer, because I think that I could turn this into a full-time career when I graduate and not have to use my degree, which was ultimately the goal. Not something I saw myself doing, especially 3 years prior. But it was something that I wanted to at least try. Worst case, YouTube failed and I could go be a petroleum engineer, or I could be a financial analyst with my MBA or whatever. Like, that's why I have those degrees. But I totally get like what you're saying about the experience part of it, because if you could have all the degrees in the world, but if you've never actually set foot on an oil rig or worked on an engine for 5 seconds, then there's no way that you're gonna you might be able to explain what's going on in the engine, but you're not going to know what this bolt is, where this goes, where this vacuum line goes. Like, all that stuff is very, you have to be hands-on with that stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to stop rambling now, but you guys know exactly what I mean. Let's see, Derpy6 Rage. My dad's birthday is today, and happy birthday to you. I appreciate that, Derpy6. Thank you for that. Muska the K, happy birthday. Thank you, my dude. Let's see, Searnoy. Oh, I totally butchered that. At Science Studio, do you think PC building / service is a real job? I think you could turn anything really into a job. I mean, anything that makes enough money for you to feel comfortable, making a living on, is a job. I mean, there are small jobs, there's big jobs. If you can turn something into a full-time job, then more power to you. And if it's PC building, that's awesome. To me, that would be an awesome job. I would love to have like a service, like an office where people bring in PCs and they say, hey, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? And I can just kind of be hands-on and fix it right there, charge them a flat fee, depending on how long I work, $20 an hour or whatever. And there you go. And then that client's hopefully happy. He or she walks out with a fixed system, and there we go. And I keep repeating that over and over every day. to me that would be awesome, and I could film in the studio where I'm fixing PCs and all, like kind of like what Rossman does, right, in New York. So something like that would be very cool on like a hardware level. But at the same time, I'm always preaching on the channel to be independent and want to do, be hands on yourself. So if I'm really practicing what I'm preaching, I should be the one teaching people how to do this themselves versus me doing it for a profit. Now that's just my prerogative, but that, someone else could totally be fine with a PC building or inspecting repair service. So yeah, I think it really just depends on the market. And look, if you can make a living off of that, more power to you. Let's see. Groundhawk, happy birthday, Greg. Thanks for all of your content. Looking forward to much more. Thanks, Groundhawk. I appreciate it. I see Johnny Winter for what is DKK? I have no idea what that is, but he sent 20 DKKs. I appreciate Denmark something. It says happy birthday from Denmark. I appreciate that. Thank you for your support, Johnny. And it's actually it's got to be really early. Really early in Denmark right now, right? So you're 7 hours ahead of Central Time Zone, so 4:30 in the morning. My dude, that is bright and early. Wow, I'm impressed. Let's see. Hugo Viana. Oh, A Tupin's T-Bomb. I knew that. Why'd you change your name, T-Bomb? Now I don't realize that you're T-Bomb until I see A Tupin is T-Bomb. Okay, there we go. Hugo Viana, for the recent leaks and news, what performance and clock speeds do you expect from Zen 2 Ryzen 3? I'm really hoping that we can get around 4.5 easy on Ryzen 3 or Zen 2, whatever you really want to call it. I think that 4.5 is certainly achievable. I'm just not sure with the node shrinkage what we're going to see from an IPC perspective, because we went, from 14 to 12? Is it 12? I'm pretty sure, yeah, 14 to 12. We didn't see much of a difference there, but we did see better power management, voltage management. The CPUs were much more stable at higher frequencies up to a point, and then it just completely goes off the charts. We also saw XMP improvements, which was a really good thing, especially for Ryzen and the Infinity Fabric. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I know it's going to be good, though. Definitely. 10 nanometer, 7 nanometer, all this stuff is looking really sweet, although we are getting very close to that limit there. We're going to start encountering quantum tunneling issues and other issues associated with die shrinkage, with node shrinkage, the transistors becoming so tiny to the point where they don't even function like transistors anymore because they're only atoms wide. I'm pretty sure it was IBM or was it Intel? I don't remember. One of the companies out there turned a single atom into a transistor, or made it behave like a transistor, basically. So in the right environment, you can kind of set these things up. But I think on a large scale, it's going to be very difficult to mimic. This stuff is quite beyond me, but I love reading about it because it is just interesting to think, about how we're going to solve these issues as a species. Because 30 years ago, I mean, to think that you could fit billions of transistors into the size of a quarter, like the surface area of a quarter, that would have made you sound super crazy back in 1980. So I'm really excited, but I have no idea where it's going to go. I really don't. And I think 7 nanometer is going to be pretty darn close to the end of what we call conventional transistor theory. We'll see. Let's see. Hassan Aslam, is there a new Titan XP ray tracing variant coming out next year? No, I don't think so. I mean, we have the Titan V, we have the 2080 Ti, which is a very minusculely cut down full GP 102. Pretty sure, yeah. So, not GP. What do they call them? RTs? No. I don't remember. Turing. TU 102. Yeah, there we go. There's so many different GPU names. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure the 2080 Ti is only a slightly cut down, full-on TU 102, assuming the TU is what it's called. And so I have my doubts as to whether or not... yeah, TU 102, there it is. So I have my doubts as to whether or not... they're going to release something like that, because they would have to use a TU 100, and a TU 100 is like that's pretty much going to be for the high-end stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about, like the 3D rendering on a large scale. It costs $20,000 a pop. Yeah. So that's my take on it. I'm pretty sure this is a consensus at this point among the TechTuber community. It wouldn't make sense for them to release a card that's very comparably priced, or comparably spec'd to a 2080 Ti already, which is why I think they went ahead and released a 2080 Ti right off the bat with the 2080 and 2070. Okay, I missed a couple super chats. I'm gonna scroll back up here because I feel like I missed quite a bit. I see Aditya Saraf, 100 something. I have no idea what that is, but I do appreciate your contribution to the channel. And let's see the message here. I know this isn't much, but happy birthday, mate. I got to go now, leaving for school. Love your content. Hope this new year brings new successes. And I do appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Hopefully you see this if you're not already, if you're not here still. Hopefully you'll see this tomorrow if you come back and watch a live stream. These will be archived, by the way, so if you miss anything, if you have to leave early, if you just popped in, you can watch the entire live stream after the live stream is over. You might be able to scrub back now, but you'll be able to watch this archived about an hour or so after the live stream ends. So just bear with me. Let's see. Bazinga gave me another comment here. Another $20. Dude, you just keep throwing 20s at me, bro. Bazinga X, how far can you walk into the woods? Halfway for then you are walking out. I'm so confused. I feel like you're just like not getting your money's worth. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh gosh. Northern Legionnaire? Oh, that Legionnaire. Is that how you spell Legionnaire? That looks so weird. He says happy birthday, assuming it's a he. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Jaden Davidson, $5 super chat. My dude. Yo, my birthday is tomorrow. Scorpio squad. Enjoy. All right. Jaden like a boss. Happy early birthday to you. Thank you for your support. And hopefully you get to stick around. I don't know what we're going to be talking about at the end of this live stream. Again, it's a birthday stream. Whatever happens, happens. But I just try to be personal with you guys. I try to communicate with the chat as much as possible because that's just, to me, you don't see enough of that on YouTube. You see like even tech tubers do this. Like tech tubers will get in front of cameras and they'll just talk amongst, like they'll have a host or a co-host and they'll just talk amongst themselves about news and stuff, and then they'll kind of slightly address the chat. But like I want to completely change that vibe. Like I want to focus totally on the chat. To me, that's just a more interactive, more fun way for me to get you guys involved. So hopefully you appreciate it. If not, I mean, whatever. It's just my take. I'm trying to be a little different here. So cut me some slack, will you? Let's see. Bright Gibson. What do you think about the GTX 1050 for VR? Do you think it's okay, or others? Please help me. Definitely, unless you want to really, really drop in game settings, VR requires a roughly 90 FPS frame rate of roughly 90, I should say. So you're gonna have to really drop in game settings. We're talking about, if it's 1080p, it's 1080p ultra wide. I don't remember the exact spec. I know it's a 1080p vertical resolution, pretty sure, at least for the Vive and the Oculus, the original ones. So 1050 is not in spec for VR. A 1060 I believe is, but a 1050 is not. So you're gonna have to really drop in game settings, and even then you might not get that frame rate you're hoping for, and that's gonna give you a serious headache. Trust me, playing at anything other than roughly 90 FPS, especially when that screen is like right in front of your face, it's gonna hurt a lot. It's gonna give you a serious headache, just because in real life, right, you don't really see in frames, but everything seems super fluid. But when you have a screen that's like skipping hardcore, it throws everything out of whack. Trust me. Okay, here. Kirby Wood, this is a good question. Do you see any long-term usage cases for a CRT monitor? Not really. I don't think in today's day and age it's really difficult. I mean, you get like the zero latency thing or whatever people always talk about. That's why they were great for gaming in the beginning. But CRT, this is cathode ray tubes for people who don't know. These are older monitors with the really fat backs, right? So I think that I just think that they're so outdated now. You could certainly game on one if you really had to, but oh gosh, I just can't picture having like really fat monitors laying on this desk. Like the monitors themselves are wider or like deeper than the desks are wide, so that would look really awkward. Yeah, isn't it weird how like we design our furniture and stuff now around the technology that we have currently available? So these desks would have to be like twice as wide to support all the fat hardware. CRT is probably a cool vintage thing, but I would never take it up myself. That's just my take on it. William Gingrich, $5 Canadian. My dude, I appreciate it. Didn't know it was your birthday. He says, happy birthday. If a GPU falls in a forest, is it RTX on? Oh, that's good. I love that. That's great. Common Sense Finance. Do you think that we can live on Venus? I totally understand that reference. That's so good. That means you are a long-time supporter. That, or you decided to go back to the very beginning of this channel. I appreciate that. I love astronomy. That was probably what drove me into the science field in the first place. I always knew I wanted to be a STEM major because I loved astronomy, I loved physics, I love understanding or trying to understand why things work the way they do. And computers to me is like a way to blend the art form of that with the technical side of it. So to me, it's a beautiful harmony. And when done correctly, we're not blowing up power supplies or whole computers with huge pluses because we think that we're using the right cables when we actually aren't. It's actually a really fun experience. So I've learned a lot, definitely, since the channel started. And I know I'll learn a lot more in the future, especially with all this tech changing, all these new things coming out. Perfect for our Minute Science and Crash Course playlist. Noise Bleed, will you make a mini ITX streaming PC? For a mini ITX for streaming, I'll probably put a dual system in the Evolve X just because I think that case is probably the most compact dual system case available. I do have a couple ITX builds on the channel though, so if you want to watch those, I have a really sweet looking one, the Fractal Node 202, with custom cables, custom length cables. I think it's again, a really clean ITX build, my favorite ITX build to date, that you can check it on the channel. But for streaming specifically, I think I'll wait and throw an ITX build into the Evolve X along with a full-size ATX build, and then we'll probably do some streaming off of that smaller system. At least that's what I plan to do on paper. We'll see if that actually works out. Okay. Crew Crafters says, at Science Studio, you know Gordon Ramsay? Of course I know Gordon Ramsay. I used to watch Hell's Kitchen all the time, and then I got into Kitchen Nightmares. He did that Hotel Hell for a little bit. That was still fun to me because like Ramsay's like just a straight up he's he's a gangster in the kitchen. Like that dude, he can talk the talk and he can walk the walk. And those kinds of people, like, you know, they're humble in a way, but at the same time they know that they're awesome at what they do. And like the knowledge this guy has, like his ability to cook basically anything really well. I actually went to his one of his restaurants in Vegas, under Caesars, and that was really good. They did undercook they undercooked my steak just a little bit. They did, and I ordered it medium rare, which I think is the way a steak should be ordered. But they gave it to me just like straight up raw in the middle. Here's how you know if a steak is raw versus medium rare. I'm saying raw versus. I'm replacing the word rare with raw because there's a fine distinction between the two. But if you order your steak rare, it's not going to be cold in the middle, but it's going to be tough to cut through. And that's why I don't order rare. I order medium rare because it's easier to slice through. But this steak wouldn't. I mean, this was a good, this was a choice steak here. I think it was a strip, a New York strip. And I was cutting through it, had a really nice steak knife, and then you get to the center, like maybe 1 to 2 centimeters in the middle of the steak. It was probably forced up at, I would say 1.5 to 2 inch thick steak. And you get to the center, and that knife it feels like you're cutting into like a, I don't know, like a really like liquidy metal, right? And you just can't get through it. And eventually, you're just gonna stab your knife all the way down in there, and just hope that you can pull it all the way out, and then keep doing it. And eventually, I just got tired. I was like, yeah, I don't mind eating a rare steak, but I do mind taking all this time to cut through it so I can enjoy it properly. So I was that guy. I called the waiter. I was like, hey dude, like this steak is too rare for me. I can't cut through it. And then they brought it back out. It was perfectly fine. I just told them to refire it. I didn't want a new steak or anything. And yeah, that was it. So I think it was kind of funny that I was in one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants. It wasn't him cooking it, but it's his name. And I had to get my steak cooked a little more. But, I mean, it was a really good steak. I will say that. Definitely a good steak. Steve, I wanted to go to Duke University, but I ended up just getting my GED. Steve, what are you doing now? I'm curious. I want to know what your career plans were and if they changed by you just getting your GED or not. But, hey, look, if you thought that was the best decision for you and you're doing okay right now, then no regrets, right? Kirby Wood, do you like science more than software? I think it's kind of a vague comparison. I'm definitely not a software guy. I would never characterize myself as someone who was like an expert in software. Hardware, yeah, I would say I'm probably maybe not an expert from the technical side, but I'm an expert in the sense that like I know what works with what, and I can pretty much recommend whatever based on your preferences. So in that sense, probably an expert, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert in software by any means. I think Will is definitely an expert in software. That's what Will does for a living. Will can write in like 50 different freaking software languages. Like the guy's a wizard. But that's just not my cup of tea, which is why I'm good friends with Will, because never hurts to I'm not friends with him because he's a software genius, but we did get to talking again one time. I thought that I thought my PC was being hacked, totally just random. I was getting all these weird windows popping up and random messages being typed in the windows on my screen. I'm like, who the heck is controlling my screen right now? Someone's got some kind of some kind of tracker or whatever. They're getting onto my desktop, like you're sharing or something. What are those programs? I totally forget the name of the program that we always use when we share screens, and that's what I thought was happening. So I called Will. I haven't talked to Will since high school. That was like 4 years, and I was like, dude, Will, like something's going on. So he tunnels into my PC, and he's looking through all kinds of stuff, going like, that shouldn't be there, that shouldn't be there. And he's like, but I can't really find anything that's like, straight up hacking. I don't see anything like that. And then turns out I had a macro enabled on my computer. I had some I guess I had clicked the button accidentally and was typing something out. And then that macro was set to run coincidentally like every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes or so, I would get a bunch of just random key actions that I wasn't aware of. And I'd get windows popping up, and it would be my own words being typed into the windows that would pop up. And that's how I knew that it was something I had done myself, because it was literally stuff that I had typed. Anyway, yeah. I sound really stupid right now, don't I? I had no idea that that I had done that. I'd never seen a keyboard straight up type entire messages based on like some macro that I had set. But yeah, so that was how Will and I got to talking again. That was like 2 years ago, and then Will's been kind of doing stuff behind the scenes for the channel ever since. And he goes with us on all our trips. He went to CES with us, Computex, and hopefully he'll stick around because Will definitely knows his stuff. And he's a good guy. He really is. Logan records stuff. Totally butchered that. My bad, Logan. 5 Canadian super chat dollar. I appreciate that. Hey, Science Studio, happy birthday. Do you have any hobbies other than computers or technology? Yeah, guitar, astronomy, and I think music in general. Like guitar fits into that, but yeah, music is just something that I'm definitely passionate about. Space, astronomy, all that stuff I've been passionate about since I got my first telescope. And I think now I'm starting to get into the filmography, like photography hobby. I'm definitely not a pro. I'm still, I would say, like a mediocre sub-amateur, but it's fun to learn, and I like just kind of messing around with lighting and shots and stuff. So maybe that'll be my next big thing. I just kind of take off with that and do some cool projects for you guys to check out. We'll see here. Manuel Matt, he just super chatted $10. He didn't even leave a message. I appreciate that, Matt. I encourage you guys, though, if you don't have to super chat, nothing like that. I'm not trying to solicit for any of that. I'm just trying to have fun here, and I always try to last about an hour or so in these live streams. But if definitely though, if you're gonna super chat, please ask a question. Feel like you're getting something for it, because otherwise I'm just kind of sitting here looking a little dumb. So help me out a little bit. I mean, I appreciate it though, Matt. I really do. Thank you all for watching. 230 or 40 or so, and watching the live stream on a Sunday night / Monday. You guys are the bomb.com. Mr. Lil Nick says, happy birthday, G. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Kofasa at Science Studio. Why didn't you study some hardware-related stuff? What do you mean in school? It wasn't like... It's really difficult to major in something that's like straight up hardware unless you're like a mechanical engineer. Electrical engineer is... There's still a lot of software involved with that, and that was kind of why I shied away from that, because my dad's an electrical engineer. I see the stuff he does. I could probably pick that up fairly quick. I'd have to go to school to learn about the specific machines he works on, but I could probably be okay with that. He doesn't touch much of the software aspect of it unless he's like reinstalling software, images, all that stuff. But that's about the extent of it. But when you're in school for an EE degree, there's a lot of software that you gotta, go through. There's a lot of just, programming classes, what have you, and all that kind of scared me. I've never been big into, like C Sharp, C++, all that stuff. So, I can barely do HTML5 and CSS, just a little bit of that. I'm still learning that very slowly. So if that tells you anything, it's just not my cup of tea. And that's kind of why I stayed away from the hardware aspect as well, because they go hand in hand, and you can't really get a degree in just the hardware aspect of it. You kind of have to know the software too, at least in most of the programs I was looking at. So, plus petroleum engineers make like 100K a year plus, and that was like, well, that to me is all I need to know. So I was like, I'm gonna go make 6 figures as an engineer right off the bat. And I have plenty of friends who are right now. Plenty of friends working for Chevron, Baker Hughes, Schlumberger, what have you, and straight out of college with a 4-year bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering, making 100K plus with 10, 20K signing bonuses. Right now, I can name them right now. And frankly, of all of those people who I know are making a lot of money, I had a higher GPA than, I'm pretty sure, all of them but one. So, I mean, like, I would have blended, I wouldn't have been the best, but I would have blended in. I had a 3.8 GPA. 3.8 GPA coming out of my undergrad. So, I could have done that. And if I had tried really hard in school to get internships and stuff, I'm pretty sure I could be there right now, making 120K a year, doing something offshore, whatever. But, I just saw that as kind of like, well, it's a good way to make money, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to enjoy that living just because it's, it's oil. You're on a rig somewhere, whether it be onshore or off. It's not really that exciting to me. It's just a good way to make money as an engineer. And so that was kind of like my rationale behind it. I don't recommend you pick a career just because it pays well. You have to at least be passionate enough to want to go to school to learn it. Especially if it's a career that requires that you go to school. But if you have enough drive to want to be successful in life, you're going to go through any obstacle that you have to get to the point where you're living off fairly well. I just was growing the channel at the same time I was doing this. I talked about this a little earlier in the live stream, and that's why I kind of just I decided to forego what could have potentially been a 6-figure salary off the bat, because I like doing this more. And that's literally my only excuse. Like, I really like getting to be my own boss in a way and not have these, super strict schedules and all that stuff, having to wake up every morning at 7, 8 a.m. I'm kind of forced to be, I don't know, I'm forced to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say like strict. I have to be, self-dependent, and I have to be accountable for my own schedule. And in a way, I like that. It's a challenge, but at the same time, it's fun. So, win-win. Let's see. Anthony Cass, what does a petroleum engineer do? Petroleum engineers, they either drill for oil, they refine oil. It's all about oil. The petroleum is any sort of hydrocarbon mixture that you extract from the earth. Funny story, actually. I used to think that when these oil drillers would drill thousands of feet into the ground, let's assume it's onshore, right? And geologists are surveying the ground, and then they're using all these different mapping techniques to give you like this 3-dimensional image of this reservoir, right? And they say, here, this spot right here, see this hot spot? This is all oil. I used to think that it was just like a huge tub of oil, like a picture, 1,000 swimming pools of just pure crude. And I was like, okay, yeah, so we're drilling to this point in the earth where all this crude exists, and we're just going to let the natural pressure inside there force that crude up into our barrels on the surface. But no, that isn't how it works at all. In fact, that's not even how oil typically exists. Now, there are some cases in which you'll find oil in those like very crude amounts, right, in pools, but for the most part, it's all trapped in pore space. So even miles into the earth, there are pores, little tiny empty pockets of air. Usually it's water or hydrocarbon or gas or something is filling that void where otherwise the sediment would exist. And so what you're doing is you're drilling down to this point where you find a lot of oil and gas trapped in these tiny little bits. Picture rocks like sponges, right? And in order to get the water, the fluid out of the sponge, you have to kind of squeeze it, right? So the sponge is already being squeezed because of natural pressures, especially that far down into the earth. All you got to do is just get there with a drill. And so when you get to that point, then typically, I mean, unless it's a super under-pressured reservoir, which is very rare, especially that far down, unless it's a shallow reservoir, then you're gonna hit that, hit that area where all that gas is trapped in the rock space. You're gonna send off charges. You're gonna increase your surface area contact with that reservoir, and then that oil or gas is just gonna flow to the surface along with your drilling mud, unless you're just in production mode, in which case you're not drilling anymore. So that stuff is just really fun to me to picture. I like geology. I think I like geology more than I like petroleum engineering, but I think they have to go hand in hand. So I really enjoyed the geology aspect of it. And I actually minored in geology. I took like 3 or 4 extra geology classes. That by no means makes me an expert, but it just confirms my suspicions that I probably like that a little more. So if I had to go into the field, I would probably try to be like a reservoir engineer, which is still a petroleum engineer, but it focuses more on the dynamics of the reservoir itself. You have to be very communicative with the geologists on hand because they're the ones surveying the land, telling you where to drill and why to drill there. So anyway, that's Ninja Sauce says, I just logged in and I'm really, really confused. I totally get that. I'm so sorry. I went off on a tangent. Someone asked about what a petroleum engineer does. So I gave him a little spiel back from my college days, and which weren't that long ago. Anyway, so back to the good stuff. I see Nacho CTM. He says, hey, how are you guys? Haven't been able to be in one of these streams for a while now. Hope you are all doing okay. What's going on, Nacho? I'm glad you decided to join us. Thank you for stopping by. Let's see. Jason Azevedo, sort of like the movie Armageddon when they drill the asteroid. That movie was so cringy. Okay, so they actually pulled what were supposed to be petroleum engineers, right? They're drillers or derrickmen, whatever. They pull them from this rig and say, you got to drill on an asteroid, so we got to teach you everything that astronauts need to learn in years, all within like a 2-week time span or whatever they say it is. It might be longer, but you get my point. It's in a short amount of time. So then these oil drillers become astronauts, and they're sent to this solid ferrite asteroid, and they're told to drill 300 meters, I want to say, or something like that. Ferrite is iron. Okay, it's a form of iron. And if you are going to drill through solid iron, you're going to need a special drill that somehow does not just succumb to the laws of thermodynamics, for one, because you're going to incur so much friction drilling through solid metal, right? First off, because when you're drilling through the earth, right, you're drilling through sediments, you're drilling through granite, you're drilling through shale. These are hard rocks, but I mean, we're talking solid iron here. That's going to really heat your bit up. And it did not appear as though they were using any drilling fluid, which is another no-no. But then again, you're in space, so how do you even use fluid if it doesn't behave like fluid on Earth does? So I don't really know. Also, I'm not sure what the temperatures were. Maybe the temperatures were cold enough they didn't even need fluid. But then you would still have to worry about the effects of friction on the bit itself. They would have probably had to have used diamond bits. I assume that's probably the only thing. You use diamond bits in normal PDC, poly diamond carbonate, what do they call them? I forget what PDC stands for. They use these diamond bits to get into very special places deep in the earth, and I'm assuming they'd have to use that too. I don't really know. If I had to like create some episode where I'm like trying to prove or disprove in real life what would happen if this movie took place. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Oh, Zabalba17 says, in 2011, I used to do all the pipe fittings for the wellheads in central Arkansas. Dude, that's pretty dope. Awesome. Moving Frag says, temperature will not be lower. It is a vacuum. So funny story, actually. The reason why space is cold is, well, space is cold, but it doesn't pull the energy from you very quick, right? Which is why when you take your spacesuit off, you don't instantly freeze. The reason for that is because typically, if you think about deep space, there's only about 5 or so molecules per cubic meter of deep space. So 5 molecules, right? Let's assume that's the real figure. 5 molecules versus a space like this, where there are literally millions and millions of molecules all around you. So let's say we got this room down to a really chilly -400 and let's just say -400 degrees Fahrenheit, right? With -200, -273 is absolute zero. So let's say -200. If we got it down that cold, but we kept the atoms in the room where they are, the molecules where they are, then those molecules would be begging to strip the energy from my body, my warm, comfortable body, into the atmosphere, because it's like treated like a pressure differential, right? If one area is really high pressure and the other is really low pressure, then the high pressure is going to want to just be sucked into the low pressure zone. Same kind of thing with heat. Where you have different ways of transferring heat: convection, conduction, radiation. But all your heat's going to be sucked into the atmosphere because the atmosphere is much colder than you are. It's going to try to reach an equilibrium, and very quickly your body will match the temperature in the atmosphere. But in space, you don't have enough molecules to strip the energy from your body because your body is composed of many more molecules than space is. The bigger concern in space would be the pressure differential, because your body operates at a comfortable pressure. I'm not sure exactly how that differs from typical atmospheric pressure here on Earth of 14.7 or so psi, but that's still considerably much higher than what space is, which is practically zero. So with an almost literally infinite pressure differential, you're going to struggle to keep all the stuff inside your body, right? Because, yeah, it's like squeezing a balloon really tight. So you're going to feel that pressure in your lungs just wanting to be expelled. You're going to struggle with all of your orifices, trying to keep all of that matter inside of your body. I actually have a video on this, what happens if you take your spacesuit off in space. Anyway. Yeah, like Rick Bearcat says, you need a medium for that heat transfer. That's exactly right. Space really has no medium because there's nothing in space. And that's why, again, I emphasize the 3 different ways to transfer heat: radiation, conduction, and convection. Yeah, it's really fun stuff. And again, I have a video talking about exactly what would happen. I mean, we do have... that video was referenced on articles that I read from NASA. So I did do quite a bit of research there to make sure what I was saying was accurate. But I do invite you to go watch that video if you're more interested in a topic like that. That stuff kind of gets me excited. Anyway, Platinum Fox says, so you're basically a meat bomb without a suit in space. Yeah, basically, yeah. You're a really highly pressured bomb, and you're much hotter than space is. Now, the molecules in space, I do want to emphasize, molecules in space are typically moving very slow. They don't have much energy unless we're talking about photons, like photonic energy, radiation in general, background radiation. But if you just have molecules zooming through space, they're naturally going to lose energy over time, and that is just one of the ways in which we characterize space as being very cold, because there is just not much matter there, and the matter that is there just doesn't have a lot of energy in its stagnant state, unless again you're standing in front of the sun and then you're receiving the sun's energy, and that's a totally different topic. So anyway, yeah. Okay, that was really fun. It's funny how I don't see many questions now about PCs. Like, you guys just gave up on that part. But please, ask questions about PCs. You're totally welcome to do that. Again, I am here just to hang out with you guys. It's 9:57 right now. I want to go back and see if I missed any of the super chats. I'm pretty sure I did. I feel bad for not addressing those as quickly as before. Let me swing over to this screen real quick so I can see those. I really need a second keyboard and mouse, preferably wireless, so I can just pivot without awkwardly reaching. Okay. Okay, I see T-Bomb, a Tupin, donated $2 through the super chat. He says, we are spamming a birthday cake emoji at the end. Okay, that'd be really cool. I actually like that. That's a good idea. We always do the emoji spam, but I think the birthday cake spam is going to be lit. All right. Michael Lira donated 50 SEK. I have no idea what 50 SEK is. I'm very sorry about the camera's autofocus going out of whack, but just roll with it for a second. Okay, a couple more super chats. I'm gonna get to these questions. I see Pat. I see Juicy. I see some questions. I see Rodimus. A couple more here. Let's see. Michael asks, has i5 hyperthreading fused off or microcode or not implemented at all? Happy birthday. I'm happy for you and Lisa. That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that. I have a feeling it's just turned off. I mean, hyperthreading is not really a hardware it's not a hardware aspect of a CPU. We do have videos on hyperthreading. It's more or less just it's making the scheduler behave a little more rationally, and that in turn expedites your processes. You treat a single core as two logical cores in an effort to kind of order packages being sent for processing. So again, watch that Minute Science video for more kind of condensed, dense explanation of that. But I'm pretty sure it's just something you enable. I want to say I don't think that there are any differences between the dies. I'm pretty sure they're all the same die. It's just something that you have to, I don't want to say turn on and off. It's a little more, I think it's a little more complicated than that, but I'm not too sure. So I'm gonna go actually look that up before I say anything else. Might be incorrect, and I'm gonna see, because I feel like if it was as easy as just turning on, people would be turning it on. But there's probably more to that. Again, it's proprietary, so it's not gonna be easy to do, even if you could, even if you knew how it was done. So we'll see. And then let's see, we have two more super chats. Dennis Rigdon, he donated $20. Dennis, what are you doing? $20 in a super chat, Dennis. He says, "Happy birthday to you. We all come from a zoo. We once threw poo, but that's okay. We all love you." That's pretty good. Did you steal that from somebody, or did you write that yourself? That was clever. I like that. Science rules. Okay, and one more from MST3K Mystic. I think that's how you say it. Pretty sure. $10 super chat. You got $10 for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mystic. Assuming that's how you say your name. Happy birthday, my man. Typing on my new Corsair K63, 10 keyless, and I highly recommend it. I've been meaning to switch to 10 keyless for a while now, and I actually used a 10 keyless from, I want to say it was mechanicalkeyboards.com. Is that the name of the website? I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a full-fledged review on it, because it's just it's a keyboard like any other keyboard. I mean, they're gonna have their small differences, but you can mostly read this stuff on spec sheets. Just wasn't sure if that was all for me. But I do want to try some Corsair keyboards. I've actually never owned a Corsair keyboard, so maybe we'll get them to send a couple and I can test them out, maybe throw a couple reviews on the channel. Let's see here. I want to scroll down to A7MD4 UAE. Happy birthday, Greg. Wish you the best. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Juicy asked, buy a PC now or wait until Black Friday. I think at this point, like if you're at a point now where you really need a PC, sure, you can build one now. I think prices have come down a lot, and if you want to buy used, then I think that's the sweet spot from a value perspective. But if you're comfortable waiting a little bit, I don't think it's going to hurt to wait until Black Friday. You're just going to be really quick with the sales, because I expect a lot of the good stuff's going to sell out right away like it always does. And honestly, the last few years have been kind of disappointing with respect to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, because all I really saw last year were just TVs for sale. And I think everyone at this point, everyone and their parents have 4K flat screen TVs now. That's the thing that everyone's pushing over Black Friday, And a lot of those 4K TVs are garbage. So make sure you're not buying a garbage 4K TV, because some of those, they're only being built or manufactured in mass for these events, right? For Black Friday and Cyber Monday, so they have insane margins. And that's why a lot of the crap in these TVs is garbage, because they're cutting corners and they're giving these BS motion rates and crap in an effort to sell something that ultimately just kind of mediocre, especially if you're like a screen guru and you like your sound, your audio, and all that crap. Maybe TV doesn't come with HDMI 2.0, what have you. There's a lot of stuff that you will be foregoing if you buy a really cheap 4K TV. So that's not to say there aren't some good deals out there, but just be careful. The 4K TVs that's just like the thing now. It's like, oh, we're all gonna sell 4K TVs at our local Best Buy. Come on down, get yourself a 4K TV, $400. That's the past 3 years has been like that. So, and I know that because I bought two of them over Black Friday. So I'm kind of pooped out on 4K TVs. Nub says, lit AF, as the kids say. My dude. Lols Kuka, is that how you say your name? Out of all tech stores you have been to, what would you say is your favorite? Definitely Micro Center. Micro Center is my favorite by far, because it's sculpted so beautifully for for a builder. If you build PCs, you enjoy building PCs, you're going to have a freaking fan fest at a Micro Center. I've been to 4 Micro Centers. I've been to 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Houston. I went to one somewhere else. I can't remember. I think it was in California. I want to say it was California. I'm pretty sure it was California. Anyway, I know I've been to more than I've been to quite a few. And my favorite one, I think, was the Houston Micro Center, because the Houston Micro Center was like laid out so beautifully for the builder. Just kind of move through all the aisles, like, oh, you need a case first. Oh, here's your motherboards, and your CPUs are right next to it. And then they had like this whole section, like it was custom, like build a PC section, where you had everything else in like a beautiful row, beautifully arranged, like a power supply, graphics card, RAM. You're gonna need all this stuff, and it's just like making sure that you don't miss anything. And just aisles of CPU coolers and everything else you can imagine. Micro Center is definitely my favorite PC store, and that seems kind of cliche, but like there's a reason why everyone says go to Micro Center, because they pretty much have everything you can imagine in a Micro Center. Moving Frag, $10 super chat. My dude, Moving Frag, I appreciate it. And I have seen you quite a bit in the live streams in the past, so I appreciate you, Moving Frag. On PC topic, going to water-cooled 2 2080 Ti's. Ooh, that sounds lit. Should I go with parallel or sequential loop on them? I will have a 560mm radiator. Will that be enough if I only use it for the 2 GPUs and CPUs? If you only use it for the GPU. CPUs would be on a separate loop. Oh, yeah. Okay, so 560mm is plenty for two 2080 Ti's. I would say you could use a 240 for two 2080 Ti's and probably still be okay. I recommend at least 120mm worth of rad space, even if it's only 25-30mm thick, just because, especially with RTX, those cards aren't going to be really thermally limited at all. They're not going to run very hot, and your fluid won't get very hot, so your fan curves will be very conservatively tuned. And another thing I want to say is, with respect to parallel or sequential loop, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure that you know make sure that the way you set it up is going to favor both. So whether it be, in parallel, where you have, let's say, your radiators here, and then you have your pump and reservoir kind of set up in the same area, and then you have one tube go through the first graphics card up to the top graphics card, and then it's capped off, and then you have it come back down through both graphics cards again, the other side of the loop. That's a parallel loop. And that's how I usually like to run mine, just because it looks a little better in my opinion. From a cooling perspective, I'm not too sure, although I will say all you're doing is basically splitting the pressure drop between the two, GPU blocks, the two graphics card blocks. So I think you're going to get a similar effect either way. This is like a fluid dynamics question. I took like 1 class in this, 2 classes, but it's something that I have to actually work out on paper to prove. But the pressure drop, I'm pretty sure, is going to be the same either way, because if you throw them in a sequential pattern, then you're forcing all the fluid to go through both cards, which is going to increase the back pressure on the system, and the fluid's going to move a little slower anyway, because there is, again, just more grooves and stuff for those fluid lines to pass through. So the back pressure is going to slow the fluid up, it's going to create more resistance, but at the same time, if you run them in parallel, then there's not as much pressure pushing the fluid through each card that's kind of split up in a parallel arrangement. So you'll get slower fluid velocities that way, but I'm pretty sure you're going to get a similar effect, if not the same effect, because the fluid, the pressure differentials between the two are going to be close to non-existent, I would say. I'm sure there are papers out there who have done tons of research on this, but in my experience, I haven't noticed much of a difference. I've done both before, and they both seem perfectly fine. So that's just my first-hand account, but for the science of it, I'd have to pull out a pen and paper and pull up some equations that I haven't touched in years. Chuck Norris says 2070 or 1070. It's a really vague question, Chuck Norris. You have to be more specific there. I would say 1070. He says, I don't type out my full question. My dog jumped on me and accidentally made me push send. Oh, that's why I was wondering what was going on. Oh gosh, and I missed another one from Johnny Winter. Johnny Winter, 20 DKK, whatever. Again, I don't know what that is. 4K TV is only good if you want to see it's only good if what you see is made in 4K. Yeah, arguably, I think there's some upsampling benefits to having a 4K TV, even if you're looking at a native 1080p picture that's kind of scaled up to 4K. But yeah, 4K content definitely looks a lot better on 4K screens. And I think to an extent, I mean, if you're sitting far enough away from your TV, you're not going to really notice the difference between 4K and 1080p. People swear there's a difference. And sure, when you get to a certain distance from the screen, you're going to see the pixels, or you're going to see the kind of blurry jaggies with the lower res panel. But in general, most people I sit my TV in this apartment. It's not a big apartment. I sit probably 10 to 12 feet away from the screen. It's a 55-inch TV, and honestly, if it was a 55-inch 1080p TV, I probably wouldn't notice a difference. That's just me. But I don't know. Maybe if I looked at them side by side, I'd see a difference. There is an equation, by the way, you can use to figure out what your optimal viewing distance is for each resolution with respect to diagonal screen size. I've done a video on this. But yeah, I think 4K, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to buy an 8K TV unless it was a huge TV, because if it's a small enough TV, your PPI is so high, you're not going to be able to distinguish between 400 PPI and 200 PPI unless you get super close to the screen, right? Because like 400 PPI, we have that in screens, right, on our phones, and 400 PPI is very difficult to, you got to get really close to see individual pixels on those screens. So if you had that kind of pixel density on a TV, then there would be no point in having that kind of resolution at any diagonal screen size larger than 32 inches or so. And because unless you're sitting super, super close to your TV, which literally no one does, you're not going to see the difference, right? So there is an argument for both sides of the coin. But I think for most people, unless you have a really big TV, 1080p is going to be okay. 4K is just an added luxury if you can get the more original just benefits of having a higher resolution screen, sure. And with how cheap they are, I mean, I guess they're kind of forcing you to buy 4K at this point, so you might as well. Yeah, and yes, yeah, Benby360, whatever. I always see you in the live stream. I just don't know how to say your name, but I always see you. Viewing distance is a big deal, often underemphasized, and it really is. Viewing distance literally determines what your optimal resolution is given your screen size, and they're all three of them are kind of interchangeable. So yeah. Let's see, Crew Crafters, what time would this live stream end? I suppose I'm supposed to be sleeping for school tomorrow. I suppose it should be ending about right now. It's supposed to end at 10 p.m. I was kind of getting caught off into some tangents. I know there were plenty of questions being asked in this live stream. I appreciate the 250 or so of you who are still watching. Again, if you like this setup here, what we're doing is streaming at a 30,000 kilobit per second bitrate, which is much higher than YouTube really allows. So YouTube, I'm sure, is downsampling the heck out of this thing, which is why it probably doesn't look super crisp. Right now I'm watching it on the laptop, and what are we streaming at, 1080p 60? It doesn't really look like a 1080p 60. Well, no, it kind of does. It doesn't look too bad. For a live stream, I think it's pretty good. And the audio, I think, is on point for the most part, too. And that's wired directly into the camera. Like, the camera's preamps are amazing. So if you want to check out some of the stuff I'm using for this setup and for my setups in general, you can check out the description down below. Those are affiliated links, so it gives me a small kickback. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get on out of here. Dwight Powder says, "You're my hero, Science Studio. I'm building my first PC because you're my hero." I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I appreciate it. I'm just out here kind of doing my thing. I love PCs in general. I think it's like an art for me at this point, and I love learning at the same time. So any way I can kind of spread the knowledge and encourage people to dive into the details about why their PCs work the way they do, I'm all for it. That's why this channel exists. I have to learn just like you do. And the only difference is I get to also kind of teach it right after I learn it. And that's a very fun aspect of this job, if you will. So thank you guys for watching. What we're going to do to end this live stream, I want you guys to tweet your favorite emoji, but this is the birthday live stream. So like every live stream ending here in the After Hours playlist, you end with the emoji spam. But I want all of you to end this live stream with a spam of birthday cakes. There we go. I see them. I see the birthday cakes. I want you guys to spam as many of them as you freaking can right now before we end the live stream. And that'll be a way of wishing me happy birthday, I guess, or something along those lines. I am 24 years old, and most people think I'm older than that. I think it's probably because I just refuse to shave. I'm really lazy. Because when I shave, I look like I'm 19 or 18. Jesus, probably younger than that. But it's been a good day. It's been a very relaxed day, and I'm glad I was able to kick off the ending with all of you. I see all the awesome birthday. You guys are freaking dope. I see all those awesome. Hey, Kofasa, what is that? Is that honey? I told you to tweet a birthday cake, tweeting honey pots. Look at these honey pots in here. You guys are just trying to be defiant. I see all you All you not followers in the chat. Olivia Jake. I see Black Rhino General. I see Dwight Powder. I see Adjuts. I see K Creed. I see Skylation. I see Michael. I see ACB. I see Nacho Driver. I see Brian. I see Quedog. I see the Hard Corpse. Turtles Rules. Oh my gosh, y'all's names are difficult to read very fast. I see Michael. I see Shibo. I see Kofasa. I see Derek. I see Zarkandi Grissom. Good gosh, I'm butchering. Ninja Sauce. Anthony. Nubs. I see you guys are freaking dope. I see Frags. I see Lols. Terry. I see Black Rhino. Haseo Weasel. Oh, y'all's names are really testing my ability to speak English right now. Crew Crafters. Victor, Jake, Sebastian, Scar, Mince, Gus. Okay, I have a headache now. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm going to end the live stream right now. If you are interested in checking out more content, you can do so. I'm sure you'll see some recommendeds on the right. Even if they're not my recommendeds, I encourage you to check more videos out on YouTube. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff out there, not just from me. I'm not going to promote myself here. Watch all kinds of channels out there. Paul's Hardware, Kyle, Bitwit, watch Gamers Nexus, watch Jay's 2 Cents, Linus Tech Tips. I don't care who you watch, but watch something that pertains to PCs, because it's fun. It really is. You can do so much with this stuff. I mean, the guys at LMG, I mean, they're having a ton of fun, I'm sure, doing the crazy things they're doing. And I hope to one day be at a point where I can just say, you know what, we're going to do something really crazy today, and I'm going to have my team with me, and we can just kind of set it all up. Right now, I'm still a one-man show for the most part. Lisa will hopefully be changing that soon. She'll be handling a lot more of the post-production stuff. But, yeah, I still see all the birthday cakes. You guys are freaking dope. I appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next live stream next Sunday at 9 p.m. CST, after hours number 29. 29 of these. Again, you guys are dope. I'm going to slide on over here awkwardly and end the live stream. So, yeah. 3, 2, 1.